Now, from the fifth floor Cumulus Studios in downtown Dallas, it's time for Inside Real Estate. Here's your host, Michael Kruizinga.
Good morning, Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Welcome to your Sunday, your Labor Day weekend. How we doing out there? Hoping you're having a good one and you're halfway through a really good weekend. Don't forget it's a no refusal weekend, so if you do partake in friendly, enjoyable libations, make sure not to drive or have somebody else drive for you because you cannot refuse. They will take you to jail. Goodbye forever. So, have a good weekend out there. Hope you're enjoying it. If this is the first time you've ever heard the show, it is a real estate and business show, but because that's what we do for a living. But we also talk a lot about local and national goings on, if you will, in politics, sports, and entertainment. And so we've had so much great feedback, from folks out there about the show, and we really certainly appreciate it. They say we love the mix of the local and national. And, if they're going to be doing something in the businesses that we do take care of, they're going to give us a call. It just so happens we're in real estate, insurance, and mortgage, and things you don't necessarily do every single day, and we're not selling a sprocket. So, but that's good to hear. So we're appreciating that. If those of you who got one of those mailers I sent out recently about the promotions and you're listening to the show for the first time, I think you're going to enjoy it. Take a listen to some of the archive shows as well. We've got some national profile folks coming on. We had Lieutenant Colonel Peters on, Dinesh Souza on recently, and then, of course, we do local as well. So last week we had a really good show with Faith Busey was on the show, who's the president of the Citizens for a Better Arlington, and so I had a great conversation with her about the stadium and issues there in Arlington.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so there you go. Let's get into, I talked last week about – Richard's already laughing at me. I talked last week about Kaepernick, and everybody's talking about him, and, I thought we had a good discussion on that last week, and we pretty much covered it off. But I just wanted to follow up on that a little bit, that, look, sports in America has gone a long way, to bridge the gap in race relations, I think, for the average Joe, and, look, sports fans, we love sports. It's not about race, and particularly those of us who've competed at some level as well, whether you're male or female, that you've competed at some level, even if it was just playing in the playground, competing, and then those of us who actually competed, at a higher level, maybe through middle school, high school, maybe you went on to college, if you've been in a locker room, that race is not an issue. It just is not in sports. You're there with your fellow ball players, and it's all about the team and the team effort and the W. It is not about race. And so I think when we've come so far when it comes to race relations through sports in the US of A, that now we're almost being taken backwards to a degree just because of some of the bad things that happen, all over the nation. And there are bad things that happen. But we're a great nation that does great things on a daily basis, and for us to take things backwards, I think, is troublesome.
So why do you think that we're going backwards? Because I don't necessarily see that, but, I mean.
I think, I'm not saying we're going backwards in the sense that, that's breaking it down, but in the media, the talk about it, and maybe it just is the fact that the media takes it backwards because the media likes something that's salacious and uses that. But for so many athletes to be coming out and saying, for example, look, what I said was, Kaepernick at the root, he had something good to say. Maybe he wasn't doing it the right way. And like I said, go out, get an interview, go call Jim Rome and say, hey, I want to come on. I want to talk about this, this, and this. I'm calling Kaepernick. I don't like this, that, and the other. Fine, come out and do that. And don't do it in the way that he did, disrespecting the nation, disrespecting the flag. But if he's talking about, oppression, well, you need to understand what oppression is. First of all, people in the United States of America are not being oppressed. But I can give you some examples of where oppression exists in the world. Okay, let's talk about women starting at the age of 12 in Russia, Ukraine, Eastern Europe, and Asia and South America being forced into sex slavery. Now that is oppression, okay? Oppression exists in Africa where warlords control various countries and various areas, and so they're committing atrocities against each other. That is oppression. Oppression exists in Mexico, Central, and South America, where drug cartels are controlling entire villages, entire cities, and in some cases, entire states, where the cartel moves in. Guess what? That's oppression. If they want, your little shop, and they just take it over, then they do. They want your wife. They just take your wife. They kidnap your daughter. That is oppression. Oppression right now in the U.S. of A. does not exist like that. So that is oppression. You want to say you want to stop oppression? Well, that is what oppression is.
Yes and no. Oppression is subject to whatever your daily life is concerning. But I mean, if you're talking about being held in a North Korean prison for no reason whatsoever, or the Chinese prisons and all that, yeah, I get that. But I do think it's funny that you're standing up and you're making this political statement in a country that offers you the ability and the right to do that, right, and you're upset about that. Right.
Yeah, and his point is, and there's some bad things going on. And that's well taken. Those things exist, and there's no issue there at all. His root cause is that there's some things going on. There's some breakdown going on. But that happens everywhere.
Yes.
Don't be one of those people that says America is not great, because we are. Look at the things that we have done around the globe in a very short time period. Okay, let's look at this. First of all, some people think America created slavery. First of all, we're only 240 years old, and we didn't create slavery. Slavery has been around since man has been on the planet. He's been a slave to, his neighboring tribes, his neighboring nations since we've been on the planet. But less than 100 years into our creation of this country, we take slavery head on and kill it and end it. And so that right there, and that's less than 100 years after our creation, our nation. We took that on and we killed it. That's saying something pretty great about where our country is going, and to see what we can do currently, that we all get along. We're a melting pot. Are there some bad things going on out there? Absolutely. But, don't just with a wide brush sweep it across and say America is horrible and, it's a bad place. Well, if that's the case, we'll move on somewhere else, and quit ruining, sports. For all of us sports fans out there, we want to watch, and have a good time and enjoy the sports.
Well, now that college football has just kicked off and the regular season is about to begin, I think all this will be brushed under the rug, and everyone will move on, and everything will be right with the world again.
I think so too, because that's what we want. All we want to know is who our quarterback is, and is he doing a good job, and don't get me started on the Romo thing. All right, so let's move on here. Let's who we got now. Guess what? Remember we were talking about Sanchez. We were thinking, okay, he's going to start up there in Denver, but boom, as of yesterday, he's a Cowboy. So did you see this?
No, I didn't.
He got cut at the deadline yesterday afternoon, 3:00. Boom, we picked him up. Looks like we're going to pay him $2.5 million for a 1-year deal right here in Dallas.
Oh, fantastic.
So what do you think about that? Now, we don't know what's going to happen. Is he going to start? Is Dak Prescott going to start? What about the other kid? Is he going to be behind him? We don't know where all this is going to go, but hey, we got him. And
I'm sorry. I mean, I'm a big, if you couldn't cut it with how many other teams, the likelihood that you're going to make it here isn't that great.
Right.
And I think we've all proved that the traveling quarterback isn't going to work. We proved that last year. So why even revisit that?
Yeah.
I understand that you have to have some kind of depth at the position because you never know.
Yeah, we need a backup.
But he would not be the one I would pick.
That's a solid paycheck for being a backup, though. Although had he stayed in Denver, he was going to be making $4.5 million, and they were trying to trade him, but nobody would bite on the $4.5 million contract. We snagged him.
That's because everyone has seen him play. Nobody's going to want him for that price.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a short window, in this league when you become a starting quarterback to either put up, or be benched, or become one of these traveling quarterbacks, as you say, or just get, thrown out altogether like Tebow.
I can't wait to see what my wife has to say about this because she's a much bigger Cowboy fan than me, and I know she doesn't think highly of him, though.
Yeah, but you know what? When he was playing with the Jets, there for a while, I mean, he was a really good quarterback. So, I don't know.
Are you watching American football?
All right.
Because I've never seen that part of his game.
You never seen that part of his game? He's got some good highlights. I think he has a highlight reel somewhere, maybe. You might have to search deep for it. I'm just throwing him a bone. Come on.
There was that one play, that one year. Yes, everyone has one of those.
There you go. All right. Well, hey, we're going to take a short break, folks. We're going to come on back. We'll see you in a few.
The Dallas-Fort Worth Nash Next Finals competition heats up Friday the 9th at Southern Junction Nightclub and Steakhouse in Rockwall. You rated them, and now this local talent search is down to the final 10, who will see who will move on to the national Nash Next competition to win a big machine recording contract and national radio airplay. The Nash Next Talent Search, powered by Take 5 Oil Change and hosted by Country Inns and Suites. Friday the 9th at 8 o'clock at Southern Junction Nightclub and Steakhouse. Be a part of the Nash Next Final competition.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Next spring, I want my lawn to be the best lawn on the block.
I told Anthony if he wants the best lawn, he's going to have to start preparing this fall with Scott's Turf Builder.
Ace is the place that's 2 seasons ahead. Spoiler alert, the lawn ends up looking great.
Now through Labor Day, get up to $5 in instant savings on select Scott's lawn food. Ace Rewards members save instantly in-store. Selection varies by region. Store stock only. See participating stores for details.
With over 3.5 million square feet and 5 DFW locations, Ideal Floors has you covered for all your flooring needs. Whether you're looking for carpet, tile, laminate, wood, or vinyl plank, Ideal Floors has you covered. And with their price match guarantee and their 100% satisfaction guarantee, they are the absolute best in DFW for all your flooring needs. Call Kevin Hamus, the owner of Ideal Floors, at 214-789-0422 or go to idealfloors.com for all your flooring needs.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey, folks, thanks for joining us. We're back with Inside Real Estate. Mike Kruizinga here, your host and local DFW Realtor. We're going to do a little mortgage talk with Miss Terri Wagner. Terri, how's it going?
Good morning, Mike. Doing good. How about you?
I'm excellent.
Good.
I know we're always looking for ways to get people into a house, and sometimes, we need to pick a different program or different pieces to try to help boost somebody into a house.
Right.
And so let's talk about this program that you want to bring with us today.
Right. That's the MCC, the Mortgage Credit Certificate. Sometimes we've talked about debt-to-income ratio before. Sometimes when the debt-to-income ratio is high, this program kind of saves us. In some instances.
Sure.
So I just kind of wanted to highlight a few of the points on the MCC.
And before you get there, so what does this MCC really do? I mean, how does it help us?
How does it help us? MCC is designed, basically it's a certificate that you give to your HR department, and you are actually issued a credit on your taxes that allows you to realize more of an income on your paycheck. Okay. So the maximum amount that you can get on that is $2,000 a year, which comes out to $166.67 a month. And how that computes in our loan process is we add that as additional income for you. And then it is something that you as the homeowner will have to renew ever so often. I don't It may be every year, but I don't think it is,
Okay.
because they're going to base it off what you owe on the house. So 10 years down the road, you're not going to get as much as what you're getting here in the beginning.
Right.
So they have a simple calculation that they do to determine how much of a credit you're going to get. But you can renew it. You don't have to renew it, but you can renew it every year and just make sure that your HR department has that certificate and can issue you that credit.
And so this can be a great way to get people over the hump,
Right.
when we're in a sort of a debt-to-income ratio issue,
Right.
with their loan.
That is correct.
And so even though that doesn't sound like a big amount, you'd be surprised, folks, that can get you over the hump.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference
Huge
in some
difference.
instances. Yeah.
Yeah.
So utilizing the MCC program, you have to be a first-time home buyer. This is not, you can't use it on a refinance, or you're selling your current home and you're buying a new one. Can't use it in that situation. First-time home buyer, which means, what's a first-time home buyer definition, Mike?
Well, now, isn't this one going to be only the 2-year or 3-year mark?
3-year.
Okay.
If you have not owned, you've been paying attention.
I have. I've been paying attention in school.
If you have not owned a property in the last 3 years, you are considered a first-time home buyer. Crazy, right?
So technically, it's not necessarily as
yes.
a first-time buyer.
Right. So if
Just
you have
in
not
3
owned,
years.
that's right. So if you've not owned a property in the last 3 years, you would be eligible for the MCC.
All right.
How do we determine that tax returns? We are going to need to see the last 3 years' tax returns to make sure that there's no mortgage on your tax return. Okay. So we're going to look at that. There is no minimum credit score. So we at Supreme Lending on an FHA loan go down to a 580 credit score. You can use the MCC on that program down to a 580. No minimum credit score required.
And that's huge. And
that's kind of big.
And a lot of the folks that are going to be kind of in that ballpark, are probably, going to need this.
Might need a little help there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We can combine this MCC, and actually in a lot of instances do combine it with the grant programs that we've talked about so many times. So all of the grant programs that we have in our office that we utilize, you can combine with the MCC program. So now, for that program, we just talked about minimum credit scores. For the grant program, you have to have a 640, so keep that in mind.
Right.
So if we're combining it with one of the grant programs, your credit score does have to be a 640 or better.
Higher.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we can combine those two together and kind of make sure that they complement one another.
Okay.
Okay. The fees associated with the MCC used to be a little higher, but they have reduced the fees. It's a one-time fee added to your closing cost of $500.
Not bad.
That's not bad.
Not bad at all.
It's not bad for a continuing $2,000 credit back to you on a yearly basis.
Right.
So you've recouped that, in the first year.
Exactly.
Okay. But the MCC allows us, like we've talked about, it's saved us many times if our debt ratio is just a little too high, and we can't pay off debt. There's nothing there to pay off. We plug that MCC program in and it works. And there's not a whole lot of additional paperwork or underwriting that goes with it. There is a little bit. I believe you have to take a first-time home buyers seminar online that will hook you up with the information to do that as well. But you complete that first-time home buyers education. After you close and fund on the loan, in the mail, we helped a gentleman not too long ago with this program.
Sure.
You get a certificate in the mail after the closing and funding. You take that certificate to your HR department, and they file it so that every week you get more money on your paycheck.
Yeah, it's a win-win. Not only do you get more
thing?
money, but it can be that little bump you need to get into the house, too.
That's right. That's right. And this program has been around for a long time, but we just don't utilize it often enough, I don't think.
Well, and I think people will be surprised, how many programs you guys have and are very fluent in. Let's say you just call the average loan officer and say, hey, what's this MCC program? Good chance they probably don't know what it is.
Right.
So that's why you want to give Terri a call.
Right. I had a customer that I talked to just this week that same scenario happened. They were with a different lender. They were with a different real estate agent, switched real estate agents. They sent them over to me, and they were going through the process of explaining, well, heard about the information on the grant program. So what can you tell me about it? And when I explained the different grant programs to this customer, they were astonished. Well, I wasn't told any of that.
Right.
I was told about this one program that I didn't fit in. So we found them a different one that they did fit in.
Right.
So, yes, please give us a call. In a lot of instances, our hope is to make you a customer for life. So what that means to me personally is I may not be able to help you with a mortgage today, but we're starting the groundwork so that you can be a homeowner in the next, hopefully, 12 months.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, folks, you can't just get this information online. There's so much information out there, and the good information is with the folks who actually utilize that information and practice it on a regular basis, like Terri.
Right.
She's got the information, and she can plug your situation in and figure exactly what you need to do and get you in a home. And it may not even be 12 months. It might be
right.
It might be a month, 3 months, 6 months, whatever the case may be. But worst case scenario, 12 months.
Yeah.
And so even if you were sitting there thinking, man, I can never get into a home. My situation is so brutal, it's not going to happen. I bet you're wrong.
Yes.
We get you with Terri.
That's right.
Worst case scenario, 12 months.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Absolutely. Folks, her number, 469-644-4818. That's her direct line, cell number, website, terriwagner.com. You can always just head on to her website, fill out an application right there. And they can also download the app. Is that right?
Yes.
Yep. What's the app called again?
It's called Mortgage Map. And
Mortgage Map.
I'm gonna bring that next time I come, Mike. The URL,
okay,
so that everybody will know exactly how.
But it's searchable in the Play Stores and all that.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Another great segment with Terri. Hey, Inside Real Estate, Mike Kruizinga. Come on back in a few.
If you run the marketing for your company, you're getting bombarded by salespeople from new media, bragging about how everyone's listening to them, except they're not. Edison Research, the independent research company that does the exit polls for CNN, looked at people's consumption of audio in a single day. The truth? Not what the new Pandora sales folks are telling you. They'll tell you radio is dead, but more than 93% of people listen to radio in a week. More than half of all audio consumed in a day is radio. On shiny new toys, only 6% listen to satellite in a day, 6% to Pandora, just 3% to Spotify. Radio, still the dominant adult mass marketing medium. The 7 Cumulus radio stations here in DFW reach over 3 million people per week. 3 million. Those new media toys don't have that kind of reach. Find out more about that Edison research and the truth about audio consumption at DallasRadioWins.com. That's DallasRadioWins.com.
When it comes to your mortgage and refinance needs, trust Terri Wagner, our resident mortgage expert on Inside Real Estate Radio. With a wide range of financing options and competitive interest rates, you can trust Terri for a fast and reliable loan process with superior service. Go to terriwagner.com or 469-644-4818 today. Supreme Lending is an equal housing lender. NMLS ID number 207089, 6730 Horizon Road, Suite B, Heath, Texas, 75032. SML Mortgage Banker Registration, residential mortgage loan originator.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey, folks, we're back. Welcome to the Inside website, InsideRealEstateRadio.com, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. And, of course, you can connect with all of our social media, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, all that good stuff from there. You can also connect with all of our partners right there as well. Hit the archive page for all kinds of good stuff as well. And so we're going to do a little insurance talk with our resident expert in insurance, Richard Tonica. Website, richardtagency.com, richardtagency.com. And, of course, his phone number direct, 817-286-2002. What do you say, Richard?
Howdy ho, neighbor. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me again. I always enjoy being here.
Well, it's good to see you again, and I always love our back and forths in the fun stuff that we talk about, which kind of breaks up the monotony of just talking about real estate and just talking about mortgage and insurance, for an entire hour, which is a lot of good information that we provide to people. But it's fun to talk about other stuff too.
Yes, it is, and like I say all the time, I mean, nobody thinks about insurance the way I do. Or at least I hope the average person out there is thinking about insurance the way I do.
That's right. They have a mental breakdown.
And so when you start thinking about it like that, it's just it's funny to me that kind of what we were talking about earlier, that if you yourself you had a client that came out and was looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, and you said, "Well, I've got two for you. I've got one for $150,000, and I have one for $100,000." Not all of them are going to come in and say, "I want the one for $100,000," are they? Have you ever put up two options and then had someone come in and say, "I want the cheaper one"? No, they're going to want to look at the house.
Yeah.
They want to know what they're buying. But all too often, people come in and judge insurance by how much are they paying.
Right.
You're not paying money to get the lowest rate on your insurance. Like you said, I mean, you're paying for your insurance to be covered, that if something happens, you're covered.
Right.
It's taking you a lifetime to build up the assets that you have to purchase, and your biggest investment probably being your house,
right,
is making sure that all this stuff is covered. It's taking you a lifetime to gather all this stuff, but now you're going to have to replace it in a total loss within a matter of months or a year.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have the right coverage, your ability to do that is diminished dramatically. And you don't really find out how good your agent is or how good your policy is until you have a claim.
Right.
And I've met with a few people this week that we were talking about her policies or their policies, and they came out and they're like, "Well, I'm getting a better rate with so-and-so." And it's like, well, I can almost promise you've got this kind of policy and you don't have replacement costs. And I'll always harp on replacement costs. So no matter what you do, I mean, your deductibles can be whatever they want to be. And we can get into a conversation about that at a later time, but you can play with a lot of things with insurance.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I never play with is replacement costs. Have to have replacement costs because it does you no good to do depreciated value, or what you'll see on your insurance is actual cash value. Actual cash value on an insurance policy is a bad thing.
Yes, it is.
It's a very bad thing for everybody. If you see that, you're always going to see it on your auto insurance.
Right.
Unless you have the new car replacement, and most carriers will only let that be on your policy for
about a year,
18 months
so, yeah,
to 2 years is the absolute longest stretch I've ever seen that
right,
that endorsement be on your policy. But if you ever see actual cash value on your home policy, it's a bad thing. Your agent isn't doing what they should be for you. And granted, this is me talking to you as the way I want it. Now, and like I tell everybody, it's the way you want your policy. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your policy.
mm-hmm,
If that's a risk that you're willing to take, that's fantastic. I mean, I'll write that policy. I will tell you I'll tell you the pros and cons of having an actual cash value. But it should never be placed on you without your knowledge.
right. Well, and that's what happens is people, like we talk about, people will call. Maybe they'll call a couple agencies. Let's say I'll call agency 1, that's Allstate. Agency 2, that's going to be Farmers, and maybe if they do 3, which is going to be rare, they do State Farm, one of the other big boxes. They'll compare, and that agent knows they're being shot by price. They're going to throw out the worst policy possible,
Absolutely.
which gets the best price. Worst policy, best price. And they know if they can beat the other ones, they got you. Now, it doesn't matter what kind of policy they give you, because they just want the business and they want that check coming in every month. Whereas you're going to say, hey, we're going to get you a good price, but would you like to be covered when something happens or not? Because we want you to be covered. We're not going to just throw out a lowball price and give you the worst policy possible, because we care about you, and that if something happens to your house, like you say, it's their biggest asset. And it's amazing to me, people don't put as much thought into, honestly, buying and selling real estate, but when they do buy real estate, don't put as much thought into protecting it.
Exactly.
Which is just ridiculous.
And that's not saying that I'm going to be the highest price, because 8 out of 10 times I'm going to save you money and give you a better policy.
Right.
And I know that sounds contradictory to a lot of people, but
it's because of your it's because of the model that
Exactly.
you have. And it's important for people to understand the difference in that model versus just going to Allstate, just going to Farmers, etc.
And with those, I mean, you've got their policy or you've got their stripped down policy.
Mm-hmm.
I've got over 25 different policies or 25 different carriers. That's not even talking about the number of policies within each carrier.
Exactly.
And so once you start getting into that and start looking at, we can have this policy, and let's say company A is offering you a great rate and a great policy this year, better than everyone else. Fantastic. We stay with company A this year. Next year, if it's company B, we move you to company B. And that's part of the thing that I love about what I do the most is the fact that I take care of my customers. My whole job is to make sure that my customers are taken care of, and that in the time of some claim or anything, they've got the coverage that they needed and they've had it at the price that they needed. And you can only really do that for a customer by being able to shop you around, because your loyalty needs to be to your customers, not your company.
Right.
And so as an independent agent or a goosehead agent, going in and being able to put my customers first, is that to say that they may not pay a little bit more? Absolutely. But we never know that until we go in and have those conversations. Because like I say, we come in and we specialize and personalize all of our solutions for your individual lifestyle and risk. If you want an actual cash value policy, just because it's not right for me and my family doesn't mean that it's not something that isn't right for you and your family.
Right.
That may be a risk that you're willing to take.
Mm-hmm. And the nice thing too is that, look, when you go to, just big box agency, they can only do everything with you. Now, of course, they're going to try to steal your auto and all your toys to go with it. But with your model, you can say, okay, well, you know what? The best home policy for you is with Safeco. But you know what? Maybe the best auto policy is with whoever else, ASI, or maybe the ASI is the home and Safeco is the auto. But you can bundle those.
Yes.
And whereas, you go with just regular big box over here, you got to put everything under that roof. And with you don't have to do that. You can get the best policies, which may be at different companies, still give them a bundle discount.
Exactly.
And, you'll get better rates 9 times out of 10, but you'll always get better policies.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I tell my customers is, really, I'm here to give you a better policy at a better price.
Yeah. I
can only do that by shopping you around to all the different companies. At the end of the day, I'm not going to come out and give you 25 different proposals. You're not going to want to read it, and I'm not going to want to send them to you. I'll give you the top 2 or 3, right, and then we take it from there. But I mean, yeah, it is not always with the same companies. It's a lot of times it's mixed matched. So if you're thinking that you have to have the same company for your home and auto, you don't.
You don't.
No. And there's a lot of times that it's more beneficial for someone to have a different home carrier and a different auto carrier. We never know until we get in and we start talking and start looking at numbers.
Yeah, and folks, you'd be so surprised. You probably haven't thought about insurance, your homeowner's insurance, in a while. You just keep paying the bill. You kind of just get stuck with whatever you got, when you bought the house. And you haven't really thought about it much since. But you don't want to be stuck in a position where something does happen and, you foolishly didn't pay attention to it and you're not covered. Now, how would you like to explain that to your spouse or your family, that you're not going to be able to be put up into a hotel without paying for it yourself, because of the damage to your home, from whatever happened, and you've got to be put out of the house? You're not going to know until something happens. So in advance of that, because something may happen, I hope it doesn't, but if it does, you want to make sure that you're covered. For example, you might have that policy that is, limited risk. It's not all peril. And you want your policy, trust me, to be all peril, which means, anything that could happen just about darn near.
Yes.
Except for an earthquake. You need earthquake coverage for that. You do need a separate coverage for that. And by the way, we did have a pretty strong earthquake, 5.6, up there in Pawnee near Tulsa. Felt from the Dakotas all the way down to Houston. So hopefully we don't continue to.
I had family members that felt it over in Greenville and the Leonard area.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people said they thought that they felt it here in Dallas, and it was early that morning after a late Friday night. So a lot of people may be thinking of just from the hangover or who knows what. But there was actually we did feel it here in Dallas evidently. So, but folks, look, take some time, look at your policies, get with Richard, and he'll go over it with you. He'll make sure you get the best homeowner's policy, and then he'll go through all your auto, toys, and everything else with you as well. Able to shop 25 companies for you behind the scenes, get you the best rates, the best policies. It's a no-brainer. If you're not thinking about it, you should. 286-2002, 817 area code. RichardTAgency.com is the website, RichardTAgency.com. Make sure you let him know you heard him on the radio and that you appreciate him on the radio and all of his good information, and give him a call and he'll take care of you. Folks, we're going to take a short break, then we're going to come on back. For the best and most competitive interest rates and most financing options, including jumbos, down payment assist, refinance, and many, many more, trust Terry Wagner, the mortgage expert, on Inside Real Estate Radio. Call the Terry Wagner Supreme Lending Team today at 469-644-4818 or go to terrywagner.com. Supreme Lending is an equal housing lender. NMLS ID number 207089, 6730 Horizon Road, Suite B, Heath, Texas 75032. SML Mortgage Banker Registration, Residential Mortgage Loan Originator. The Richard Tonica Insurance Agency in Arlington has nearly unlimited resources when it comes to getting you the best insurance rates and policies for home, auto, and more. As part of the Goosehead Insurance brand, you, the consumer, have the power of choice through the Richard Tonica Insurance Agency Network. Richard can quote over 20 A-rated companies to find the best fit for you, the best policy at the best price. Call Richard today at 817-286-2002. It's the Richard Tonica Goosehead Insurance Agency, 817-286-2002. Folks, it's Mike the Realtor here from Inside Real Estate, and if you're not listing your property with me, bottom line is you're leaving money on the table. There are over 15,000 agents here in the DFW area, most of whom are part-time and do a few deals a year. Do you want to trust them to sell your home? I think not. Call Mike the Realtor, the radio realty expert from Inside Real Estate on 570 AM KLIF. Promise you will get to me direct. Go to InsideRealEstateRadio.com. Don't sell your home with just anyone. Go to InsideRealEstateRadio.com and connect with Mike the Realtor.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey folks, we're back. It's Inside Real Estate. Mike Kruizinga here, your host. Time for some home improvement. We've got Jared Benson here from Permapier Foundation Repair of Texas. How's it going?
It's great, Mike. Glad to be back again.
Good. By the way, folks, permapier.com is the website. Phone number 214-637-1444 for all of your foundation needs. You want to give Mr. Jared a call. What are we talking about today?
Today I thought, with all the issues that I hear about dealing with contractors and dealing with other foundation repair companies, I thought I could give you guys a few quick tips on just how to kind of qualify people that come and try and sell you their business. So just some quick tips on, now we're going to focus on foundation repair, but you can take these tips and apply them to any other contractor trade that you'll be working with.
Yeah, because, as homeowners out there, we're constantly having things done to the house, and, these are just great pieces of information that you can, use in all trades.
Yeah, definitely. And so we'll jump right into it. And the first question you should be asking anybody that wants to come work on your home is, do you carry insurance?
Yeah.
And specifically general liability. And people out when I like to ask people, what should they carry? And people say, well, they should be bonded, and no, not for what they're doing for you. For their little $5,000-$10,000 job, the bonding isn't the big deal. The big deal is if they burn your house down.
Yeah.
Are they going to pay for it? And the reason that's so important is what I just said. There was a big, one of the major brokers here in DFW was in a meeting I was in, and he asked me if licensed plumbers were required to carry insurance. And to make a long story short, I didn't know why he was asking, and he said, well, I had a listing agent who referred a single licensed plumber one time. Homeowner was so comfortable with the guy that she left and ran some errands while he was doing his repairs, and when he left, the house burned down. This is not the only story I've heard of plumbers burning houses down, by the way.
Right.
But the unfortunate part of this story is that plumber didn't carry insurance. He hadn't paid it, didn't have any insurance. So, Mike, do you know who ended up paying for that house?
Yeah, the broker.
I think I've told you this story. Yeah, the broker paid for that house. Thankfully, and not for him, but thankfully for the homeowner, someone had insurance that covered that. So you don't want to get stuck. If you call a handyman out on your own and something crazy happens and burns the house down, there's no one you get to go after other than that handyman. If he doesn't have insurance, if he doesn't carry insurance, you think he's got the money to pay for a new house for you?
Right.
Probably not. And the second question the second type of insurance that I ask people, second question, and it leads back to another insurance, is, are the guys you're going to send to my house, are they contractors? Are they day laborers? Or are they full-time employees?
Right.
And now, just because a guy's a contractor, it means he's paid as a 1099 contractor. Doesn't mean he doesn't know what he's doing. Mm-hmm. But if there's an employee, what type of insurance covers employees that are working on the job? Do you know that one?
Well, and ultimately, workman's comp.
That's exactly right.
Gets to take care of those employees.
Yeah, and so what I tell people is, like, well, why is that important? Who cares? Well, when someone gets hurt on your property, who's liable for that injury?
Yeah, you are.
It's the property owner. And so if a company is carrying workman's comp, they can cover their employees if they get hurt. And, man, I've had to take guys to the emergency room because they hit themselves in the face with a handheld mallet.
Right.
So, it's construction. Stuff happens.
Absolutely.
And you can say other S words happen.
Yes.
You never know what's going to go on. Especially roofing is kind of scary. How often do guys fall off roofs? But you want to make sure that if someone gets hurt in that construction process, that job, that they're going to be taken care of by the company and that they're not going to come after the homeowner in any way.
Yeah, because then that goes back to what your homeowner's policy is, and then potentially coming out of your pocket, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, and you don't want to see that at all. So just asking some very basic, sort of common sense questions, but honestly, we're all guilty of not doing it. I mean, how many times have I had work done in my house? Yeah. And you know what? I failed to heed that advice, and just for whatever reason, I was not thinking at the time. Luckily, I've been lucky and nothing's happened, but you're so right, because we could get in so much trouble, with somebody falling off the roof or falling off the ladder, something happening and would have to go to our insurance or out of our pocket.
Yeah. And those insurances are not cheap. My company is going to spend, we looked at it last week, we're going to spend over $1 million this year in just insurances. So that's a great way for some small companies to keep their costs down. So when you get quotes that are super low, that just seem, oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that you really want to check insurances, because if they're not paying for insurances, they definitely have the money to take care of your home or anything major that goes on.
Yeah. And so two big things you need to worry about, could one of the workers, get injured, which, the type of work that's being done in your house, injuries happen. They happen all the time. I mean, just think about when us homeowners do our own work. We get injured all the time. So that can happen. That's an issue to think about. And then, of course, the damage that potentially can be done to your home, through the type of work that construction is. Absolutely. You could be in a world of trouble.
Exactly. And I'll say one last thing real quick. Another question you want to ask foundation repair companies specifically is, how long have you been in the foundation repair business? So I bring it back to say, Warren Buffett is the only self-made billionaire through stock market investing. I started reading one of his books, but I realized I preferred real estate over the stock market. But one of the 4 tenets he had for purchasing businesses was a stable operating history. So he used, have you been in business a while? Have you done a good job? That's a really good indicator that you'll continue to be in business.
Right.
Because a foundation repair company's warranty is only good as long as they're in business. Really important for people to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if it's good enough for the Oracle of Omaha, then maybe it's good enough for us, and it's a good question for us to ask. How long have you been in business? Not to say that new businesses that come up aren't going to be good. If they answer all the other questions the right way, then hey, they're starting off on the right foot and doing business the right way.
That's right.
But so many companies in the trades, start a business and then fail and go under for whatever reason, and you wonder if are they going to be there if you need them if something goes wrong. So, all very good, important questions. And when it comes to foundation repair, folks, trust me, you want to talk to Jared over at PermaPure Foundation Repair. And don't forget, he's got this in-house plumbing company as well, so he can take care of those leaks, potentially, if those occur during foundation repair, or if you've had foundation repair done by somebody else, and now you have plumbing issues.
Yeah, we'll take care of that too.
Still give Jared a call, because their plumbing side will take care of you and get you fixed up. Permapure.com is the website. Permapure.com, phone number 214-637-1444. Give Jared a call. Let him know you heard him on the radio. And, folks, come on back. Inside Real Estate Kruizinga. See you in a few. Folks, it's Mike Kruizinga here with Inside Real Estate Sports Entertainment on 570 AM KLIF. Did you know that virtually all of us will experience a fall in the bathtub at some point in our life? Well, statistically, it's true, and as we get older, a fall in the bathtub can spell disaster, as we just can't recover the same as we did in our younger years. Don't let something as silly and preventable as a bathtub fall put an end to all your special plans you have lined up for your golden years. Invest in a Hydrojet walk-in bathtub. Made in the USA and with the lowest step in the industry, Hydrojet walk-in tubs has your best interest at heart. With no commission sales staff or huge warehouse overhead, they build and sell direct to you, saving you thousands of dollars over their competitors. Call Randy, my friend and owner of Hydrojet Walk-in Tubs at 855-980-8827 or go to hydrojetwalkintubs.com. You'll be able to speak with Randy directly, and make sure to mention you heard about it on the radio. And for you veterans out there, there's a grant available for you to cover the majority of the cost of a walk-in tub, making it darn near free. Call Randy at 855-980-8827 or go to hydrojetwalkintubs.com today.
Living in the DFW area, expansive clay soil and extreme weather conditions play havoc on homes' foundation. But thankfully, you can turn to Permapeer Foundation Repair of Texas, who has successfully repaired over 20,000 properties and counting in the DFW area. With the most trusted, tried and true foundation repair methods, trust the professional staff of Permapeer Foundation Repair to take care of your property, and most repairs are backed by a lifetime transferable warranty. Mention Inside Real Estate Radio when calling Permapeer at 214-637-1444 or when booking online at permapeer.com for your Inside Real Estate Radio discount.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey folks, we are back. How we doing out there? We're going to do a little headlines in this segment. And by the way, don't forget website InsideRealEstateRadio.com, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. Before I get there, I just wanted to mention this because we had Fred Williams, the head coach of the WNBA team, Dallas Wings, on the show back before the season started, and they're almost done, with their WNBA season. They're late in the season right now. But the coach, he actually is also a very well-accomplished musician. And when when he came to the show, he gave, Sam and I a couple of his CDs. And I just now listened to it this past week. I had it sitting there with the other CDs, and Lisa and I finally listened to it. And it was really good. And so I just wanted to say that, wow, this was really good. And I just finally got a chance to listen to it. And so if you like kind of easy listening jazz, that Diana Krall, Chris Botti type of feel music, just good for dinner, romance, that type of thing. Freddie Bass Williams, FreddieBassWilliams.com is the website. And you can get some of his CDs there. So, again, that's FreddieBassWilliams.com. And just got a chance to listen to it, and it was great.
I'll have to give it a listen.
Yeah, and he's the head coach of the WNBA Dallas Wings that are now right here in the DFW area and playing over in Arlington at UTA.
Learned all kind of things here because I didn't even know we had a WNBA team.
You didn't? You didn't? Oh, yeah, you weren't here yet when I think he came on the show and talked to us. We had a great interview with him, and that's on the website, by the way. And we're talking to him about, moving down here from the Tulsa Shock, came down here. And but yeah, he's a musician, well accomplished as well. And wow, had a really good CD, and I'm, glad I got a chance to listen to it. So just wanted to mention that. So thank you, Coach Williams, for that CD. And it was really good. And we're continue to keep listening to it. I wanted to touch briefly on what we talked about last week. We talked with Faith Busey of the Citizens for a Better Arlington group, who is, sort of bringing some common sense to this whole stadium thing in Arlington. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit again, because a lot of folks are thinking, oh, we got to vote yes, come Arlington residents, that is, vote yes to save the Rangers, come November. And that's not really the case, okay? The Rangers aren't going anywhere, and no other city wants to pay for a stadium anyway. So great interview with her. We talked about some things, so I would highly advise checking that out. But just so happened, that we had talked the week before as well about, well, can we just do something with the current stadium? Well, the Miami Dolphins, this past Thursday unveiled their brand new renovations to the Dolphin Stadium. Now, this was Joe Robbie that, was named pro player, as well as Margaritaville and Land Shark. And now it's Hard Rock Stadium, and Hard Rock has paid $250 million for the naming rights over 18 years. The ownership down there paying for themselves is about 450. It may top out around 500 million, but the renovations that started in February of this year now completed. They just had that preseason game on Thursday, which was really the unveiling of having everything done. What they did over there, instead of knocking it down and building a new stadium,
because it's fairly new.
Yeah, fairly new. And I think Joe Robbie opened 87, I believe, is what it was. And so a little bit older than the Ranger Stadium, which opened in the mid-90s. They decided to spend the $450 million to add a canopy system over all of the seated areas. So now it basically kind of almost looks like the old Texas Cowboys Texas Stadium, where you got the opening in the middle. And kind of looks like that, only with a canopy system. Now, this cost about between $450 to $500 million after it's all said and done. But it wasn't just for the canopies. They did some seat upgrades. They did some additional upgrades throughout the concourses, as well as some new video boards throughout the stadium as well. And all of that, totaled the entire amount. Now, that's half the amount of what, the Rangers and the city are proposing for the new stadium that they want to build, which is going to be closer to $1 billion. They're looking at about $500 million for each side to bring to the table. The construction engineers, and Sam and I are in the middle of putting together a piece for all of this, and we're going to have it available probably next week. But there's some great footage of them installing these canopies and these systems down in Miami. The engineers are saying, look, there's a 30-degree difference between sitting in the sun and sitting in that shade of the canopies. And they said, look, it just didn't make sense. We're going to have the air conditioning, the cost of heating and cooling the building. This just made more sense, and it, keeps with the environment of playing sports outdoors. And so I just thought what they did, and it just so happens to coincide with talking about the new stadium in Arlington, that is a viable option, putting up these canopy systems. I mean, these things are monstrous. If you haven't seen what they've done at the Miami Stadium, folks, you need to go take a look at it. Just Google Miami Dolphins, new stadium. It's not a new stadium, but what they've done to it. And $250 million from Hard Rock. It was going towards this from the naming rights deal. The other $250 million covered by the ownership. Did not get any municipal funds whatsoever. And so they do that in other cities, pay for their own stadiums, the ownership does, and not just looking for the city to do it. So just wanted to throw that out there to everybody, so check that out.
That's because they spent so much money on the Marlins team for their stadium that they're not going to do it anymore.
Well, and I just wanted to go around the MLB and say, hey, Wrigley Field, 100 years old now, still, 1916. Of course, they've made updates to it along the way.
I love going there, but I couldn't imagine being a season ticket holder there either.
Dodgers, 54 years, been up since 1962. Fenway Park in Boston, 104 years. 104 years.
We loved it.
Up since 1912. Hey, the Angels.
But they did make some renovations a few years ago, and we went after the renovations.
Yeah, of course.
And that was fantastic, but we loved it.
Right, but they didn't tear it down.
No.
And start over. Angels, same stadium since 1966, 50 years. Most stadiums are up, 39, 40 to 50 years. The Tigers, their stadium was in Detroit for 87 years up until they opened Comerica. Now they opened Comerica in 2000, but prior to that, their stadium was 87 years old. So there's really not a lot of precedence for, building a new stadium every 20 to 22 years. And the thing is, are we going to set the precedent in Arlington that, okay, we're just going to, we're going to build a new stadium every 20 to 25 years? And do we not think that the Cowboys are going to say, once they get to 20, 25 years, we want a new stadium again?
No, they're not going to say it.
We could build an even bigger and better Jerry's World, And, hey, that opened in 2009. That thing's already 7 or 8 years old. Hey, it's obsolete. Let's build a new one already. So just wanted to throw that information out there at you. And, folks, take a look at that Miami Dolphins stadium, because what they did there, if we're looking for some shade and we still want baseball outdoors, because the big talk is, well, it's hot in the summer, I don't really want to go to a game because it's too hot. I'm going to melt. Yeah, you are. But this says, okay, let's keep baseball outdoors where it should be, but let's get some shade, which is the big thing. And we all know, Texas heat isn't that bad when we're sitting in the shade. That's for sure.
Are you kidding me?
No. I used to, yeah. Back when I was running events, shoot, I was outdoors all the time. You'd go sit in the shade. Whew.
Oh, I agree for people our age, but for my kids, oh, not a chance. And it's most of the headache of hearing them talk about how hot it is. And
now, as well as I do, they're just watching their little mobile devices and not the game.
Oh, I will tell you, I'm the first person that doesn't watch a game. I am there strictly. It's a social interaction for me. My wife,
and we want the 3-foot hot dog.
My wife is the fan. I'm the spectator that's talking to everybody around me, and my wife hates going with me. But it's fun. We enjoy it.
It is. Hey, look, if somebody's gonna, poll me and ask me, hey, would you like a new air-conditioned stadium? My answer is gonna be yes. Now if they ask a follow-up question, who would you like to pay for that? Well, I'd say.
That's always
the ownership. I don't want to pay for it. I mean, what does that have to do with me? That's
you're still going to pay for it in ticket price.
Oh, well, of course, and in parking and in all that jazz. But I'd rather not. It's the principle of paying for a new stadium this soon after this one's been built. It's such a nice stadium to begin with. I wouldn't mind some nice roads and our schools in Arlington have not been updated since I don't even know when. You look at these schools compared to all the new ones going up in the suburbs. Oh man, night and day difference. So
yes,
just a thought. Just some things to think about out there. Love an air-conditioned stadium. Don't want to pay for it. By the way, Rangers aren't really going anywhere anyway. They're staying in Arlington. Nobody's going to build a new stadium for them.
Well, if people's taxes go up, people have to save more money, and they'll give me a call, and so I can save them money on their insurance.
Folks, it's The Inside with Mike Kruizinga. We've been talking with Richard Tonic over at Goosehead Insurance. Give him a shout, of course. Richard T. Agency is his website. Of course, our website, InsideRealEstateRadio.com, and we're here every Sunday, 8 to 9 a.m. Tune in for us. See you next week. Neither the hosts nor the guests or contributors of the show Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga are attorneys, CPAs, tax advisors, CPAs, tax advisors, CPAs, tax advisors, CPAs, tax advisors, CPAs, tax